Welcome to the Donley Auctions Unfiltered Podcast, where history meets the highest bidder. We've got amazing stories behind the treasures, insider tips for both buyers and consignors, and maybe even a cameo or two from Tucker the Auction Dog.
Join us each week on your favorite podcast platform that supports video, like YouTube or Spotify. We've got some great visuals to enhance every episode. Well, hello, it's Randy and Susan Donley, and we're here today doing another unfiltered podcast, but we keep asking people, tell us about your collections. You want to be on our podcast, we'll come to your man caves, your she sheds, and promote your collections and that for upcoming auctions if you want to auction them with us. But Susan, what did you say to me the other day? What about our collection?
What about your collection? That's right. The collection of the Donley family that has been in this building since 1947.
Wow. Actually, 74.
1974, because it's been 47 years.
Yeah. If you're from Illinois, you know all about the Wild West town.
Experience how the West was fun at Donley's Wild West Town in Union.
We come here every summer. It's like an unfound gem in McHenry County.
We like the Wild West show, the gunfight, falling off of the roof, and the kids love it.
We really enjoy just being able to spend the whole day here and never run out of something new to do.
What's great about Donley's is you can spend a whole day without spending a fortune.
Donley's Wild West Town.
It's been a staple here in the Chicago area for, as Susan said, 47 years already. And so people know about this collection, but this was actually the man cave of my father, Larry Donley. So before guys had their big sheds and man caves and everything, my dad built himself a museum called the Wild West Town. And now we're going to be selling off the contents of the Wild West Town, one of the ultimate man caves, this summer. Right?
This summer. Okay. And it used to be called 7 Acres.
It started as the 7 Acre Museum.
7 Acre Museum, yeah.
But,
a lot of history here. Let's go check it out.
But yeah, and that's what I want to do right now. I want to show you some of the things that are coming up for auction at Donley Auctions this summer right here at the Wild West Town. So, by the way, we're going to be moving into this large building. This is the next building we're going to expand into. So if you heard Donley Auctions is moving, we're not. We're staying right in Union, Illinois, and expanding into the Wild West Town. But one of the first collections I want to show you is right here. Look at this. It's a Wild West collection, Outlaw memorabilia, very famous Outlaw death masks, pistols, original police badges. You know, you see a lot of replicas, but everything in the Wild West Town was authentic. My dad collected up most of this stuff way before they had all the repros that are on the market now.
Great stuff.
But follow us around the corner.
Where's your mugshots? No mugshots in there?
No.
All right.
So come around this way, sweetie. Okay. Here's one of, again, typical cabinets all over the place full of goodies. Here's one display we're going to be selling off in pieces, and that is a Custer collection, in that we have an original up here, a photo of Custer and his wife Libby at Fort Abraham Lincoln right before the massacre, the famous massacre. And we have all kinds of items in here that were owned by Charles Borowski, who was one of the wagon masters with Custer, including the chest of drawers that Borowski had at Fort Abraham Lincoln and other Civil War artifacts, including Borowski's 7th Cavalry Civil War sword. All going to be for auction coming up this year. And if we just turn to the right, Vanna, can I see you do the...
This is probably one of my favorite displays.
This is a cool display.
These photos up here and those chaps. Wow,
No.
I need to wear those out line dancing, I think. Okay, tell us about this one, Randy.
Years and years ago, I flew to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to pick up this collection. And this was all owned by the original family whose brother owned a tavern. Jacob May owned a tavern, and he worked for the Luben Studios. Now, Luben preceded Thomas Edison when it came to motion pictures and photography and everything. Luben had a motion picture operation going on in the 00s and teens. And all of this Western memorabilia was worn by Harry May from Luben Studios, and he was an actor in the Luben Studios, and this is all the original clothing worn in these old Westerns. I mean, it's just great stuff. All came out of one family, all extremely historic, never for sale since we've owned it. It goes from the original owner to the Donley family, now to auction. And we're going to keep moving down the line here because we've really got some great displays full of goodies here.
Now, Randy, I have a quick question. Who put these displays together?
Actually, my brother Mike did most of the work here. Everybody, you all know Mike.
Yeah, he did a great job.
He used to spend nights really putting together all the displays. My dad collected so much of this stuff, again, in the last 70 years that he was a collector. He's now 94, still alive. You'll see him in some of the podcasts. He still comes to work every day. But we're selling off his collection. I mean, a great gambling collection, anything and everything that you would want. And we're not going to sell a whole cabinet at a time because everybody doesn't want everything in here. But if you do, it's going to be all available one piece at a time. Okay. Now, we don't have the dates for this yet, but a lot of this stuff is already going to be available as early as May. So where do they want to watch? Our website at
DonleyAuctions.com. It's DONLEY, auctions with an S.com. Check it out because we'll post some dates and then we'll get more information as we go on the time and everything. So stay tuned.
Okay. And there's cabinets and cabinets. Go around the corner here and just show them a typical cabinet full of firearms.
Winchesters.
I mean, we have hundreds and hundreds of firearms in this collection that will all be auctioned off in upcoming gun collections auctions. If you turn the camera around this way, you're going to see early primitive pieces from the Pioneer area, or era rather, not area. And again, all stuff that was collected up and on display here since 1974. Right. So we're going to keep walking. We got a lot to show you. Here's another great cabinet that's just full of Wild West memorabilia. Again, one of my father's passions was collecting Wild West memorabilia, and this whole display has to do with the Wild West shows. Now, here's a real interesting piece in here, and that is in Marengo, Illinois, back in the 1930s, there would be a traveling show come every year to the park here, and they recreated Romance of a Century, Marengo's spectacle pageant, and there's an original poster for this where they would actually, a traveling Wild West show, went city to city, and there you see when it was held in Marengo, Illinois. But Native American items, the photographs of Buffalo Bill, they're real. These aren't copies of photographs. This is all the real McCoy. And just some great, great stuff all coming up at Donley Auctions. How do they find us?
Summer at DonleyAuctions.com. You can always call us too, right? Especially if they want to talk to you about anything in particular. Give us a call at 815-923-7000. Ask for Randy.
I was going to say, what's the best number? I think that's the best way to get a hold of us.
And ask for you if they have specific questions about the property or anything here.
And then I'll call you back on my cell phone and you'll have it. You can reach me anytime. But we're going to keep walking. We've got more.
Well, that's because your phone is available 24/7. Working man right here.
You'll see here an early photography display with not only some great cameras, but some very early, rare images. So a lot of good stuff here. Everywhere you turn.
They're shooting at us.
Everywhere you turn. Oh, it sounds like a repeating firearm. Here you see the front of a theater, the old theater. Well, my brother Mike collected vintage theater memorabilia, and we've got great hand crank projection equipment and everything. Going to be selling it all this summer at Donley Auctions.
All right.
Continue.
Let's go this way. Take a walk down memory lane in the streets of yesteryear. We've had so many events in here, remember, Randy?
Oh, my goodness.
Back in the day when I was running the banquet hall, we would have cocktail parties for the chamber and some fundraisers and things like that.
All kinds of fundraisers.
Set it up with some music, lighting, tables, dinner. It was fabulous. People really liked it.
And now we're using it for storage, and it's time for us to clear out and turn it into an auction hall. Yeah. So we've got to sell off the contents.
All right, let's see what we got. First, on our left, one of my kids' favorite rooms.
It was called a pawn shop, and that was the purpose of this display.
Can we go in?
Sure.
Let's go in, Ryan.
Was to do a pawn shop display, and almost always pawn shops were full of early musical instruments.
Yeah. There's an accordion in here, a banjo, cameras, got these old typewriters, all kinds of instruments, a violin, clarinet. Wow. And who set up this display? Again, was Mike the creative genius here to do all this?
Pretty much, Mike.
Wow.
He
that looks really good.
He really set up the displays in the Wild West town.
Some old radios, that fur coat, does that have any significance?
It's an old horsehair coat. That actually comes, Susan, that actually comes from my family.
Really?
That was an item that years ago our ancestors would have used that in horse and buggy days.
Okay. Great. Here's a photo of someone. Anybody we know?
That's Clarence Ferguson and his wife.
Ferguson,
yeah.
Really. Clarence is our ghost that visits us on a regular basis.
All kinds of good treasures. Look at this beautiful Berwyn.
Yes,
this is
it's
where
leather.
We're from. Berwyn old leather fire helmet, #1.
Excellent. I like that.
Yeah.
Just some great treasures in here. It's like a Where's
It's
Waldo?
a catch-all, all kinds
hunt,
of vintage jewelry and everything. All kinds of stuff going to be sold this year.
Okay.
So
next up, is this our bison?
It is one, yeah.
Yeah, we had a bison in the restaurant that people could sit on and take pictures.
Yeah,
so many brides and grooms were on that.
But this buffalo came from the Wild, or is at the Wild West town.
Yes. Okay,
vintage barber shop in here. Boy, look at that cash register, Susan. That's
this one.
A fabulous wooden cash
I don't
register
think I've
that
ever
we'll have
noticed
in
that
the.
before.
We'll have that in the coin op auction in May.
Yeah, we should. Look at this thing. It's wood. That's beautiful. Wow. Okay. This calendar is dated 1926. All right. Let's go see what's down here. Come on, Tucker.
We got to get some lights in here so that you can see that we've got a great gun shop, full of guns. Nice Winchester sign up here, going to be sold. But the toy shop is just loaded. Again, my father would go off onto tangents of collecting. His primary focus was antique phonographs, but then he'd get bored with that. Suddenly he was a toy collector, and he'd be a toy collector for this next 6-8 months. Well, then all of a sudden, antique telephones. Then he'd collect telephones for another year. Tobacco, lamps, you name it, Larry Donley collected it, and pretty soon he had to build the Wild West town.
One of my favorite things in this room, except for one other piece we'll show you on the way out, was this car, because it has so much history to it. Tell us about it, Randy.
Well, this car is how my dad got started in the early 1960s, well, maybe 59. He owned a gas station in Berwyn, Illinois, and he wanted to park an old car out in front of his gas station. Tucker, I'm talking. He wanted to park an old car out in front of his gas station for advertising, but he didn't have enough money to buy an old car, even though they were cheap in those days. In the 1960s, Model Ts didn't go for much at all, but he didn't have the money. So what did we do? We went to Maxwell Street in Chicago, and my dad started building up a 1919 Model T Ford from parts. He would, it was like a Johnny Cash song where he'd buy a fender, he'd bring home a radiator, and he built this car up. It's a 1919 that he built and used it for advertising at his Pure Oil gas station for years and years and years. It's now here on display at the Wild West town, but...
well, you got to tell them my favorite part of the story.
Well, let's hear it from you.
Well, from what you tell me is that this is the car that you used to learn how to drive.
Well, both Mike and I,
15, 16.
This was the first car I ever drove. Mike and I, when we were about, preteens, well, we were like 13 years old, 13, 14. This was, we considered it a big go-kart. And we'd go tooling all over Berwyn without a driver's license in those days. And being an old Model T, it was like nobody stopped us, nobody cared. But you could drive around, and we'd cut through alleys and zoom around the neighborhood. But this is what we learned how to drive on, and it's somewhat sentimental. But
wow, I learned how to drive on a '67 Impala. That's our age difference right there.
What, was it a stick shift?
I think it was. Yes, sure it was.
I know you know how to drive
It's an
stick. I'm
automatic,
proud
yeah.
of that.
Good, I love it. Just so many things to look at in here.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah,
let's
a lot of
move
goodies,
on.
a lot of goodies.
Sound
Gas
check.
pumps, signs, you name it, it's going to be sold.
All right, what do we got over here? Oh, telephones. Wow. Looks like something Thomas Edison would be doing.
Okay, and as I said, Larry would go off on tangents. One of his collections was antique telephones. So when you can come in here and, there are some goodies in here.
Look over here, come see.
Very early stuff. He collected this when it was all available. And there are some good phones, like this is referred to as an oil can telephone because of the shape of it here. It kind of looks like one of those old-time oil cans with the big base. But there's all kinds of goodies in here, all going to be sold this year at Donley Auctions.
That's right.
Tobacco,
This way, Tuck.
all kinds of tins and humidors and so on and so forth. Some fun stuff. Go down the line.
Okay, watch your step. Oh, yes, the scary room, I call it.
Susan calls it the scary room. Well, it is scary in one respect. Let me tell you the quick story on this. The backstory on this display is everything you see here came out of one office, a drugstore office in Cicero, Illinois. Back in about 1970, we were already working on building the museum in Wild West Town, and we bought all the cabinets out of the drugstore. Well, as it turns out, every day when we're moving out cabinets, we see customers coming in and talking to the owner of the drugstore, going in the office. We don't see them for 10, 15 minutes. Next thing we know, another person walks in, and so on and so forth. And it turns out he was still operating his druggist, doctor's business out of this shop in Cicero, Illinois. And this is how he was operating with all this ancient equipment in the 1970s. He's still using this. Pretty scary.
Just a reminder to keep an eye on our website. Most of you are probably on my email list. We will let you know the dates for this fabulous auction at the Wild West Town. Anything else to add, Randy?
Well, there's a lot more to come. We've got more to show you. We'll do that in another podcast. But for now,
I'm Susan.
and I'm Randy Donley, and we'll see you at the auction.